So much for being here with us. Here to give you an update as it relates to the impact of Hurricane Zeta and our restoration efforts here in terms of making progress as it relates to recovery from Hurricane Zeta. Our priorities continue to be, of course, power restoration, debris removal, and human services. Power restoration, as you know, is through Entergy New Orleans, and where we're working closely with them to ensure that power is restored, of course, to properties throughout the city of New Orleans. We know now that there's roughly about 95,500 that we're being told is still without power. The full assessment of Entergy is expected to be completed today at 100%. So we are excited about that. But again, moving towards power restoration. Members of the public, I really want to encourage you all, if possible, you go to Entergy.com. You will see the map of where power has been restored and also areas where it has not. You will also see with that that it is across the city of New Orleans. It's not one centralized location or particular neighborhood. It's spotty. And so I just want to kind of push back on some of the themes around, oh, not my neighborhood, or if I'm in a predominantly black neighborhood, I don't have power, that sort of thing. We don't want that. That's not what it is on the ground. And so I have to make sure I push back appropriately, because this is about everybody. All of our people, they matter, and all of our people are a priority in this city. I'm joined by Colin Arnold, our Director of Homeland Security, Ramsey Green, who is my Deputy CEO of Infrastructure, who you'll hear from, as well as Colonel Ebert, who serves as our Director of Public Safety and Homeland Security. I am happy to report, and you all know that I met, Unified Command met yesterday with our Governor, John Bel Edwards. Had a meeting actually this morning, again, with the governor and our FEMA Administrator Gaynor right here in City Hall. Based on these conversations that's really started on yesterday, wanted to push for more support and boots on the ground as it relates to the New Orleans Police Department and our park and parkways as it relates to debris removal and bundling. I am happy to report that those requests have been made and met by the Louisiana National Guard that started to work with us in OPD on last night. We have 12 crews of two, I don't even know how to say this appropriately, 12 sets of two National Guardsmen who are providing services, working with the New Orleans Police Department in key areas throughout the city that have been identified by our Superintendent of NOPD. And so again, this is just an added asset on the ground, helping us to monitor areas that still are without power, and with the focus being on retail establishments, pharmacies, and the like. That is going very, very well, and I'm just so thankful to the Louisiana National Guard and General Wardell, as well as Colonel Bailey. So thank you for that. Also, we have 4 6-person crews that are working with Park and Parkway. Started early this morning, 6 a.m., again, helping us with debris removal, bundling, and the like. I do have to say, public, please do not dump your debris along our levee, as well as areas throughout the city that you know it's illegal. We want you to discard it, put it out front of your home, and we will have our contractors come up and pick up debris. Ramsey will give you a little more information on that. But hearing from Director Bays this morning from our Flood Protection Authority, and even talking with our partners, the dumping on the levee, we just have to, we can't have that in the Army Corps. Also requested about 2,500 blue tarps, as we were hearing from the public in terms of some level of roof damage caused by Hurricane Zeta. So we do have 2,500 tarps that we've received. I'm going to be working in partnership with the New Orleans City Council, bringing them in as we've activated, pre-storm with sandbag locations. We're kind of going back to that with 7 locations to deploy and give out blue tarps to residents who will need them. Right now we have District A will be Mid-City Library, District B, Dryades YMCA, District C, 2 locations. West Bank will be the Arthur Mundy Center. The East Bank will be at NOCA. It'll be at NOCA, Homer Plessy Way. District D will be the intersection of Desire and Law Streets. District E, going back again with 2 locations, New Orleans East at St. Maria Goretti Church, and also Philippians Missionary Baptist Church in the Lower 9th Ward. Municipal and Traffic Court will remain closed on today, and I do want to make you all aware, in terms of our easement of restrictions. We have the 3.1, 3.2, with the expectation that we will be moving into 3.3 as of this weekend. That will not happen. We'll review that on next week. A part of the reason for that is, one, as we've moved through this week, we have not had adequate testing like we've been used to having that helps us measure how well we're doing. So without having proper testing, sites available, as well as moving through the recovery due to Hurricane Zeta, we will not be moving into 3.3 this weekend. However, staying very much focused on easement as we move into next week. You will be hearing more on that from me. Testing is expected to resume on Monday, and again, we'll be forthcoming with more information on that. Halloween weekend again is up on us, and that is one of the reasons why I asked for additional coverage working with the New Orleans Police Department as again we move through recovery. We need folks to be just remain mindful of power outages and of course debris around the city, especially in terms of areas where we still have down traffic signals or lights. We have been deploying stop signs throughout the city as well. 200 more are expected to hit the street today. We have also requested just some additional signage and tripods from the state, and that is about 400 that we have requested in addition to what we have. But again, wanting to monitor areas where we do not have traffic signals available. Want to remind folks to continue to remember, we're in the midst of a pandemic. We need to ensure that we wear those masks, that we keep our distance as best as possible. Very, very important. We have asked Entergy to prioritize the restoration of power to polling stations. You all know that Tuesday, November 3rd, is Election Day, and we're wanting to be prepared for that. Currently, 54 of the polling locations are still without power, but I also want you to know that this is, again, a unified effort around this issue with the Registrar's Office, with the Secretary of State, with Entergy, with our clerk, Morell's office as well, and of course the administration is working to collaborate and coordinate these efforts. Very, very important that we keep that moving, and I'm very confident actually. Ballot drop-off continues at City Hall today. I want to thank Chief McGee with the Sheriff's Office for setting up tents just to make sure that that effort continues on today. So we're thankful for that. The Algiers Courthouse is closed due to power outages still there with expected restoration hopefully by Sunday, but that is a priority. Just want to continue to thank all of our city agencies, all of our hardworking men and women, and specifically with the Park and Parkways, Sanitation, Sewage and Water Board, as well as DPW. There is more updates that will you'll get from Colin, you'll also get from Ramsey, and then, of course, I'll be here for questions and providing you with the answers necessary. So we have some other updates, and I'm going to ask Colin to step up while I step back.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everybody. I have a lot to read, so I'm just going to go right into it. I really appreciate your attention to this and our residents' attention. So the Emergency Operations Center continues to be activated in our coordinated response and now recovery to Hurricane Zeta. As the mayor mentioned, we've reached somewhat of a milestone with power outages. We're now below the 100,000 mark in Orleans Parish. Remember, the high was 178,000 that night. Over 80,000 restorations have been completed. Again, we're about 95,000 without power right now, but they are making significant. Entergy New Orleans is making significant progress. They expect, again, we do this in a systematic way in coordination with Entergy. We work on a list with them of critical sites that need to be restored first, and you need to think about hospitals and nursing homes, public safety offices, response level. Those have been restored for the most part. So now Entergy expects today that they're going to be able to really, dig in and start getting into residential, and that will bring the number down is what they're anticipating today, and we're hoping that's significantly. But I just ask that everyone please be patient and understand that there is a systematic approach to restoring power. And I will say that critical infrastructure also includes, as Madam Mayor mentioned, our polling stations throughout the city. There's over 120, and again, 54 right now we're looking at that we're working very hard with Entergy to get restored. We met with the governor and FEMA Administrator Pete Gaynor this morning and discussed our needs here in Orleans Parish, and we really anticipate that coordination and support from our state and federal partners. A key part of that coordination is assessing our individual assistance programs, which we are doing. A lot of it's based on damage assessments for property. So it's important for you to help us understand your level of damage that may have occurred during this storm. If your home or business was damaged, please submit the information and photos to damage.la.gov. That's damage.la.gov. Please do this as soon as possible. This really helps us both. It will help you and it will help us as a community understand exactly where we are at as far as damage assessments. Those are ongoing by our crews throughout the city right now. We are also anticipating that the State Fire Marshal is bringing in a team that will assist us with that as well. So in any ability we have to really get out there and get the ball rolling on this can be done at damage.la.gov. Obviously, this doesn't. This helps us track and get some of these things out and noticed. But as a homeowner with your insurance company, you still have to go through all those processes and phone calls and things to start that ball rolling on your end. But it certainly helps us as a community kind of understand how much damage we have out there. I mentioned that there are people out in the field conducting assessments as well. We're doing residential, commercial. We're also doing our public buildings. And we're still addressing infrastructure as far as utilities, street lights, streets, and the like. If you or someone you know needs help cleaning up, we have set up a hotline with Crisis Cleanup that will connect you to volunteer organizations that are willing to come and help you clean up some of maybe the debris issues that you may have. Please call 504-350-0788. I'll repeat that. It's Crisis Cleanup, 504-350-0788, and they can offer you some assistance. And again, this is for people that maybe have some difficulty doing the work themselves. And we very much appreciate, as usual, our volunteers, all of our volunteer groups in the city and people providing that type of assistance. The mayor mentioned it, but I can't say enough about the Louisiana National Guard. We do have engineering teams that are out there today helping parks and parkways doing route clearing and debris removal. And again, that security piece is so crucial to help us while we are in large-scale power outages, especially the overnight hours. We do have those security teams that are out there. They're standing static posts at critical areas around the city protecting businesses and infrastructure. I'll go over one more time. In conjunction with the City Council, we do have a Tarp program tomorrow from 9 to 12 as supplies last. You'll need to provide an address for the property that is damaged. The locations, again, District A, Mid-City Library Branch at 4140 Canal Street. In District B, the Dryads YMCA at 2220 O.C. Haley. In District C, there's two locations. There's a West Bank location at the Arthur Munday Center at 1111 Newton Street, and on the East Bank at NOCA, which is at Charters and Homer Plessy. In District D, the intersection of Desire and Law. In District E, New Orleans East, St. Maria Goretti Church, 7300 Crowder Boulevard, and also in District E in the lower 9th Ward, New Philippians Missionary Baptist Church, 5234 North Claiborne Avenue. And we've put these out through NOLA already as well. Again, the New Orleans Health Department, in conjunction with our fire department, everyone is stepping up, have opened 3 oxygen exchange sites at 3 local fire stations. There, oxygen-dependent individuals can swap out empty oxygen tanks in exchange for a full tank free of charge. That's between the hours of 8 and 6 p.m. until further notice. Those locations are New Orleans Fire Station 1 at 2920 Magazine Street, New Orleans Fire Station number 27, that's at 2118 Elysian Fields Avenue, and at New Orleans Fire Station number 40, which is at 2500 General de Gaulle on the West Bank. Additionally, thanks to Nordsea, the Rosenwald Center will be open starting tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for medical device charging. If you have a power issue, you need to stop by and charge up a medical device, please go to Rosenwald Center between 8 and 6 starting tomorrow. I think that's about all that I have right now. We will be here throughout the weekend continuing with, again, the priorities right now, which are damage assessment, debris removal, human services, public safety overall. And again, thank you to all our partners that have assisted with this. I think Ramsey's going to come up and talk a little bit more about infrastructure.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Mayor. Going to go over some sort of inside baseball stuff right now. With regard to debris, as Colin and the Mayor said, I cannot stress enough our joint team of the Department of Parks and Parkways, led by Ann McDonald, now known as Colonel Ann McDonald. She has Captain Bryson and the Louisiana Army National Guard engineers team showed up at her site at 6:20 this morning, and they're all over town. So when you see men and women in camouflage, they're working for us, they're clearing our roads, they're making our city safer. Director Keith LaGrange at DPW, as the mayor said, by the end of the day, we're going to have 200 A-frame stop signs up at traffic signals that are down. If you are approaching a traffic signal that that is either blinking or is off, particularly at night, ideally you're at home, but if you have to drive somewhere, it is a 4-way stop sign. Folks were much better about this morning, just my own personal driving around. It is a 4-way stop sign. This is a very dangerous situation to have this many traffic lights down at one time. Please, it is a 4-way stop sign, and we're going to have those stop signs up 200 by the end of the day today. Additionally, that debris clearing team includes the sanitation department led by Director Cynthia Sylvan-Lair and the mosquito termite and control board led by Dr. Claudia Regal. Those folks are working incredibly hard. You have until basically the end of the day Sunday to get any debris from your property out to in front of your house. Illegal dumping, we have cameras all over town focused on popular illegal dumping sites, and we have successfully prosecuted people for illegal dumping. Don't do it. There's no point. We're going to have a huge team to do debris clearance beginning Monday morning. It could be 1 day, it could be 2 days, it could be a few more days, but we're being very cost effective in managing this task order for the debris team. You've got until Monday morning to put all that stuff in front of your house. When that debris clearing starts, it's going to be sidewalk to sidewalk. So everything that you see in front of a house or anything you see in a neutral ground will get picked up. But if you're calling inbound calls through 311 to say, I've got all this debris in front of my house, we're going to respond as we see fit. But generally, when we do these debris clearing programs, we go grid by grid, neighborhood by neighborhood. We don't go to the first person who calls 311. 311 is more about emergency-based things. Debris clearing is more about logistics, speed, efficiency, and getting that stuff out. We opened 3 additional landfills this morning to receive debris, and that work is incredibly important. We did report yesterday that Parkways had over 800 tree emergency calls. We've winnowed that down to 583, getting rid of duplicate calls. And we've also detailed that Louisiana Army National Guard team led by Ann McDonald again to helping RTA. If you're over at where Canal Street meets close to I-10 where the cemetery is, you'll notice the RTA big streetcar shelter is covered in felled massive trees. That's been tasked to them. We have and working with those guard folks to help out City Park, to help out Audubon Park where needed. As long as we have this guard team, we're working really hard to clear those trees and clear that debris. Additionally, as Colin and the mayor mentioned, critical infrastructure is the priority for getting power on, which includes our sewage lift stations. We have 83 sewage lift stations throughout the city. 73 of them lost power. As of this morning, 30 to 35 of them don't have power. We're moving around truck-based generators and switching valves, moving lines, keeping wastewater going. This is a huge win for this city. It's a huge win for the Sewage and Water Board. This could have been a massive, horrible problem of sewage backup, and it has not been that. But just in case, please limit your wastewater that comes out of your house. Don't take a long shower. Don't do 2 or 3 loads of laundry this weekend. Give us a little time to get that stuff back up. E&O has really stepped up to focus on get those sewer lift stations and that critical infrastructure, including the zoo. They got animals that need to be protected, and the zoo is on that critical infrastructure list. Additionally, illegal dumping. Again, that's going to be picked up upon. Finally, we have preliminary damage assessments coming back on our city infrastructure. We thank the Capital Projects Administration led by Vince Smith and the Project Delivery Unit led by Joe Threat and Russell Kelly leading that team right now. They've completed over 100 assessments. We've got about 17 minor damage reports from our city infrastructure, and we're relaying those to FEMA for a potential declaration of multiple categories. Finally, Safety and Permits is communicating with its permit holders. They're doing inspections of neighborhoods. The airport is up and operating at normal operations, and there was a diesel spill that occurred at the Orleans Justice Center. It was a 20,000 gallon diesel tank. We don't know how much was leaked, but at 2 a.m. Thursday, the Sewage and Water Board environmental team led by Ms. Ann Wilson responded. They follow EPA guidelines. The Sheriff's Department has hired their own contractor. Sewage and Water Board is on it, but you may see activity along the Lafitte Canal. That work continues to be underway. Last thing I'd like to say is safety. Please look out for the men and women on the streets right now. Those folks are working for you. They're also, they're going to wear reflective vests. They're going to wear camouflage. Do not drive, frankly, the speed limit. Go lower. If you've got to be on the roads, please look out for the men and women clearing our roads, improving our electrical lines, and getting our city safe and operating. Last thing related to transportation. We are nearly at 100% bus lines back online. 90% of them are. 100% of paratransit is back online, and the ferries are operational. We're trying to get streetcars up as quickly as possible, but obviously when you have this much debris, it takes a little bit more time than normal. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. And I know Ramsey and McDonald mentioned that all of the trees that were down, particularly, public areas, have been removed. If this is not the case, meaning if the public knows more than we do, please call 311 to let us know that. But as reported this morning, we have responded. Park and Parkways has responded to all trees down in the public rights of way. Residents with trees down on their property, on private property, please know that you do need to reach out to your homeowner's insurance as well. The city cannot remove those trees on private property. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Colonel Ebert, and then we will move to questions. Colonel?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add, as you listen to the detail and the complexities of what you just heard over the past 10 minutes that's being performed by thousands of city workers organized not only to coordinate their job, but to coordinate their job with the other agencies, to include the state and the federal agencies, and you've got thousands of people doing the job of bringing this city back online. This is a proud city, proud citizens, and it's through the citizens working with the support of public government that we'll bring this city back very quickly online. And I want to thank the media for their tremendous role in support of passing this information as needed, because you're the ones that everybody listens to. We're giving you the information, but to get that information to our citizens is vitally important, and I want to personally thank you. We're going to have a tough weekend and coordinate a lot of activities, but I think we'll have a much brighter next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Colonel. And just before going to Q&A, just encouraging our residents to just remain very patient with us, patient with one another, and at the end of the day, patience to those who are working in our communities and working for you. So with that, Ms. LaToya?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask a couple questions. The first one being, are there any details you can give us on the rules of engagement for those National Guard security teams? I think you said there were about a dozen.
Yeah, it's 12 sets of 2.
Gotcha.
And they are just there helping, one, with traffic flow, not so much directing traffic, but their presence alone, particularly in those areas where there has been no electricity. And they were with us on last night, worked out very, very well. Chief Ferguson reported no problems at all, just thankful for the support, even as it relates to areas that retail areas, pharmacies, shopping centers, and the like. Just again, their presence there. That allows NOPD to be in other areas throughout our city and, not having to tax them more than what we are. I did have to approve on yesterday an additional 100 reserve officers with NOPD, and they began working on yesterday as well. Not only are we in the middle of a pandemic, of course, the recovery of Hurricane Zeta, but budget implications, that so much about, as we have shared. So with all of those things in my mind, we have to build in efficiencies every way possible, and that really led to me requesting additional support from the National Guard.
And to follow up, so do you think that I know it's still early, but the damage that we've seen so far, do you think that's going to play into 2021 budget considerations? I mean, is it that massive, the damage we're looking at?
Well, we're still assessing damage right now. We have requested through FEMA, that was one of the reasons, meeting with, and it's a big deal to be sitting with our administrator, Gaynor of FEMA, where we put on notice that we do anticipate being approved. We want them to approve us for categories A, B, E, and G. Multiple things are tied to those categories, but it's about reimbursement. But the issue here is that how FEMA works, it's reimbursement. So on the upfront, those upfront expenditures or costs, that's to the city of New Orleans, and that's where cash flow becomes an issue. Right now, we're just monitoring it, keeping our finger on overtime and the like. Right now, no overtime, but we're moving through it. The assessments will really tell us what the actual story is. And a part of this as well is wanting, I know the National Weather Service will be reviewing the strength of Hurricane Zeta. We believe that we were about 1 mile from being a Category 3, and of course that could kind of provide additional resources from the federal level that could come our way. So we're just, focusing in and doing the assessments. The good news, too, is that, the administration completed assessing all of our public infrastructure, our public assets and facilities that really hadn't been done in over a 4-year period. We completed that in 2019. So it puts us just in a good position as we're assessing damage.
This again might be too soon, but before you came in, we were talking about how the French Quarter, with their underground distribution technology, they seem to fare pretty well. So I'm just wondering, when we think about resiliency with the electricity system, is the focus, long term more on recovery speed, or in the future do we hope to, be able to have a little bit more electricity hold up in an event like this?
Sure. Well, you know, we have a resiliency plan where, you know, looking at our infrastructure just holistically, it does, at the end of the day, you have to have the resources to do it. But the plans and, of course, the forward thinking and progressive thinking is where it needs to be in the city. Underground utility, we've seen that it works in some areas in New Orleans East, for example, that right now that has underground utility. Well, they've been up and running. That's not, again, across the whole landscape of New Orleans East, but when you see where utilities are underground, absolutely, they're able to sustain higher winds and weather inclements that come our way.
Yeah, a couple questions.
And get me straight now. You got me
Well,
on it.
and that
Don't
one-
hesitate, because, you know, go ahead.
One thing, yeah, Michael, you asked a good question about budget impact, right? Assuming FEMA does do a declaration, remember, it's a 75-25 federal to local cost share. So every dollar that we incur related to this disaster, while reimbursable by FEMA, only 75 cents on the dollar is. So yes, there's always going to be an operating impact, which is highly unfortunate given the situation we're in right now, which is why we're as conservative as if this were all of our local dollars in spending, which is an example of the debris management scenario. And then when the mayor talks about categories, each category for public, called FEMA public assistance, you know, we're asking for all categories. We're also asking for individual assistance for our residents because of things like spoiled food, which that's a lot of money for a lot of people. If your entire contents of your freezer, your refrigerator are thrown out, those kinds of things. Thank you.
But with that, and for public consumption, we first have to receive a declaration from FEMA. We have not received that as of right now. So while we know our people's, you know, food in the refrigerator, we know that it's spoiling right now. But without that declaration, there is no way that we can reimburse. So there's nothing set up in that regard. I just want to be clear on that. And Councilmember Banks actually in my briefing this morning just wanted folks to be mindful of that food in the refrigerator and not keep it, you know, discard it.
So a couple questions as well. One, and apologies if I missed this in some of the things you all are saying, but is there a preliminary damage estimate either to city facilities or overall for the city?
We're still assessing, you know, we're still assessing. I believe this morning in my briefing, we still had maybe 400 and
Yes.
about 400
About
and
400 left.
400 left, yeah. 400 buildings,
Parks, buildings, playgrounds.
yeah.
And I mean, do you even know how many reports of damage from residents or anything like that that you can share?
Oh, from residents, no, that is ongoing. It really does speak to what Colin had requested of the public. Colin, you want to reiterate, I know you gave some instructions on how, you know, capture your pictures and the like. You want to repeat that?
Again, just to get us going in this, to know kind of which direction we need to go, breadcrumbs, if you will. Go to damage.la.gov. If you've experienced damage to your residence or business, have pictures ready. I believe you can upload them on that site and describe kind of in a little bit more detail what the damage is. And from there, city and now we've requested state assistance from the fire marshal's office will come in and further investigate that. And you know, we have to paint a picture for the federal government about where we're at as far as damage. And the better Rembrandt that we can do indicates to the government and to FEMA how much assistance we are eligible for and what we can get. You know, I mean, I believe we're talking right now that debris alone is probably going to be about $4 or $5 million, and that's just right off the bat. And that's not counting. You know, we do have, I think, about 6 residences that we know of at this point that are not habitable, you know, and we're going to deal with that as far as short-term housing. But this is just the beginning. You know, we're literally 36 hours in, and any assistance we can get from the public at damage.la.gov will be helpful.
Yeah.
And thanks to the state of Louisiana and the fire marshal's office for putting that website together, because they've used it for Delta, Laura, and now Zeta, and it's a great resource.
Thank you, Colin.
And following up on one of the earlier questions, the National Guard units that are assisting NOPD, do they have arrest powers?
No.
Are they allowed to use force?
No, they're not even, no, They're on the ground, but the interaction with the public is very minimal. The most action would be at traffic stops throughout the city of New Orleans that do not currently have power. And I can say that them being here with us on the ground is assisting the city to keep this city safe, and that is from vehicular traffic as well. So it's not just looking at any violent activity or criminal activity.
And they're primarily needed because of the furloughs and overtime limits?
No, they're needed because we don't have power. and we're limited in our ability to, just to be out there. I mean, we're human beings, but we do shine a little light, but not that type of light. Okay, so it's just added support. And what I will say, what means so much to me, is allowing our police officers to be throughout the city of New Orleans and neighborhoods throughout the city, because, again, we are moving through an issue with not having adequate power.
WDSU?
Hi, Mayor, how concerning is it to have 54 precincts out?
Well, 54 precincts out, which we believe most are schools, and schools are a priority in terms of being with their power restored. I am confident, however, because we took proactive measures on the front end with creating that kind of unified command with our clerk Morel, with the Secretary of State, with the Registrar of Voters, and of course with my administration team, with my leadership team, and of course with Entergy. Right, and that coordination is happening. So I'm very confident that we will make sure that voters will be able to express themselves come Tuesday. And we know that the hope is that power will be restored in the current polling sites, and even if generators are needed to do that. But it's a focus for everybody. It really is. Anything to add on that? I feel you moving back there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was
Come on.
looking at some stats.
I know my people.
I don't mean to make you nervous. Just schools, Mayor, I think it's worth mentioning. Right now in our briefing, 75% of Orleans Parish public schools are currently without power. Additionally, about 30% of their infrastructure had minor damage, broken windows, minor stuff. And they're going to come out with an announcement late Sunday. Once we have, and E&O has definitely said schools are a priority, which, is a kind of a twofer with a lot of these polling stations. So parents will know more late Sunday as Entergy remobilizes. Thanks, Mayor.
Can I just follow up on polling stations? Sure. Is there a drop dead point at which y'all will have to make a call of whether to reopen smoothie cases?
Sure.
Polling, or
Sure. So as I've been advised by our clerk of court, he would need upward of 48 hours, like if there was a change, because those machines, voting machines, have to be on site. There's there's a time that they need to be there for, and so that's the timeline that we are working off of. Quite frankly, is that coming from the clerk of court responsible for those machines. So he's been a part of the conversation before Zeta came our way.
That would have to be sometime Sunday.
Sometimes, yep, that's exactly right. Okay, thank you all again so much.